With the newly elected 7th administration, President Cyril Ramaphosa is set to deliver the first opening of a parliament address of the Government of National Unity. The address will be delivered by the President in his capacity as head of state and government in front of a combined meeting of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. The state, or rather the opening of Parliament address, lays out a government's major policy goals projected for the next 5 years. It also typically considers the progress that has been accomplished and that the areas that still require attention since the previous owner. For more on this, we now speak to Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, and she joins us now via our video link. Minister, at the weekend, we saw the Cabinet Lekgotla taking place at Mahlamandlovu, and one would ask and say that when it comes to the message that many South Africans will be hoping to hear for the next 5 years, what can we expect from the message from the President tomorrow?
Good evening, Bali, and thank you for having me, and good evening to your viewers. As we have indicated during the Lekgotla that we were meeting to discuss the priorities of government, informed by the statement of intent and also by the National Development Plan. So the President tomorrow will outline what we deliberated on and agreed on as the priorities of the 7th administration, and that with that we will then start to go back to departments and to clusters and then departments to articulate the implementation plan. So the President tomorrow will set the tone for the 7th administration. And there was, in your commentary earlier, one of the commentators was saying there are differences within members of the Government of National Unity and also Parliament of National Unity. And that is not accurate. We have, actually, it was quite interesting. We have consensus on many issues, and there was a few at the Lekgotla that said 99% of the issues are agreed. Even where we are not agreed, it's issues of the machinations of one thing or the other. And the President himself articulated to yourself as the SABC that there is common ground within the GNU parties or signatories to the statement of intent who had now formed the Government of National Unity and the Parliament of National Unity. So what will the President focus on? He'll focus on the priorities of the 7th administration, and I do not want to spoil the fun and the interest of viewers. They must listen to the President deliver those, and then direct how will government move forward as we deliver on the promise that the electorate has given us of working together and building a South Africa that we can all be proud of.
And Minister, you're certainly right. I mean, just looking at the weekend reports, I mean, we did indeed see that many were saying that the conversations that took place at Cabinet Lekgotla were indeed cordial, and many things were agreed upon by the Government of National Unity. And one would also ask, how different will the marching orders be this time around, especially when it was the first time you were having a Cabinet Lekgotla that consisted of other political parties and not just the ANC?
How different it will be is because, one, you're having multi-parties that are working together. That is the first thing. But secondly, you're having a president who's in his second term who must consolidate what will be his legacy and what he will bequeath South Africa on his last term. And also you're facing a government that does not, where no single party have a unique or a sole mandate to govern South Africa, which is a message that all of us had to embrace, to say no single party has that mandate. We have to do it collectively and show South Africans that we can work together. It has taken in other countries more than 40 days, more than 300 days. Some it has taken more than a year. But it took us 14 days to form a government, for the President to have a cabinet. And we with that, and there were a lot of speculation that will not work. But we have proven, and as this year we celebrate the 106th birthday of Dr. Nelson Mandela, we've proven that we are the children of Nelson Mandela. We are what he has bequeathed this country, and in his footsteps, indeed, we walk. So that's what we need to expect, that South Africa can work together collectively, both government and the citizens, to build this country. In fact, the electoral mandate says we must work together, and doesn't mean only political parties. It also means South Africans in general, we must work together.
And when it comes to where we find ourselves now, where we don't have have an outright majority in South Africa when you look at the 2024 elections is because mainly of the many challenges that we do face as a country, the issues around electricity crisis, poverty, a very high unemployment rate. Are those some of the issues that South Africans can expect for this GNU to deliver on when it comes to finding solutions to the problems being faced by South Africans?
I'd like to refer you back to the statement of intent. One of the apex priorities is an inclusive and growing economy that creates jobs. You will not be able to have an inclusive economy if structural reforms have not been undertaken, if the electricity situation does not improve. And we must give credit where it is due. The electricity situation in South Africa has indeed improved. We don't have water for the poor, but also water for agriculture, we need to make sure that there is water for the poor and agriculture. If our road and rail network does not work, you'll recall that we have been rated 11th globally in terms of the road network and 19th global in terms of the paved and tarred roads. But there are still areas where there are no bridges and where people do not have passable roads, and that we must address as part of a growing economy. But the rail infrastructure, and we must also acknowledge the progress that Transnet is making to rebuild itself, in dealing with a backlog in our ports and rail. But we still have a lot of work to be done in terms of restoring back our rail infrastructure, in particular as it relates to the main lines, so that we can have our goods moving from roads to rail, and then which will reduce the cost of goods and services in our country. So those structural reforms has to take place. But in addition, you have to deal with the telecommunications environment and acknowledging that the digital world is part of what a digital economy is part of what will drive the speedy growth in the economy of this country. So we must then not only conclude digital migration, but move to make sure that we've got universal access to internet, but also the cost of data goes down, because data has not become only the new gold. Data is the driver of economic growth in any part of the world. So those are part of the things that we'll have to sort out and we'll have to prioritize, and we hope the president will speak big on those. But also the issue of safety and security, the crime situation, how is that handled? And those are the part of the work that has to be done, and it cannot be business as usual.
Yeah. And Minister, before I let you go, I mean, tomorrow is a very important day. It is indeed the opening of Parliament for the 7th administration. At the same time, something that you touched on is the fact that we are celebrating former President Nelson Mandela's birthday tomorrow. What does it mean to have this opening of Parliament tomorrow, when at a time we are celebrating and marking 30 years in this country, which also coincides with the former President Nelson Mandela's birthday?
For me, it is profound, and it should be profound for all of us. It must remind us what Nelson Mandela, as the President of the Republic, but this is journey and the struggle for freedom and democracy, what it has bequeathed us. It means we should not take this freedom for granted. We must continue to work together. We must build an equal society, and that equal society will not come in by chance. It will mean a give and take. It will mean sacrifices, but it will also mean pushing the transformation agenda more aggressively so that South Africans are equal. It means we must change the spatial arrangements of this country, where the poor and the rich stay far from each other. The poor stay far removed from their places of work, and the rich, with all the conveniences, they're the ones who are located in the city centers or in just peripheral to the city centers. So we need to make sure that South Africa is prosperous for all of us, and that because a safe South Africa will mean an equitable and a prosperous society. And Nelson Mandela has said to us, we cannot live in a country where development and progress is judged by the color of somebody's skin, but it needs all of us to work together with no discrimination, and all of us interested in the common development and mutual development, which is not only of society and communities, but also individuals. A black child must have equal access to education like a white child. A colored child must have equal access to education like a white child. All of us must be equal, but the statistics are telling us differently. So this 7th administration will have to be settled with dealing with those problems to make sure that we are a Mandela generation is the biggest gift we can give to Nelson Mandela.
All right, Minister, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. That's Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, just giving us a bit of insight there when it comes to what we can expect from the President's address tomorrow. Of course, it is the opening of Parliament. And of course, this is the first time we'll hear the message from a collective message from the Government of National Unity.